Recording, and we are now recording. All right. So typically, this is the question or the assignment that you see in front of you is a average fifth grade level question for social studies or science. It is also following the 5-paragraph essay model. I specifically chose an essay that does not match all the criteria, so that way you can see how feedback could be presented. And if you see me looking to my right, it's just I'm looking at my second monitor following the chat, that's all. So what you can do is you can highlight a section where you want to leave feedback. So you'll see here that I already highlighted this phrase here, and I put in a text mark or a text comment that a period is needed. The way you do that is simply, we'll pick one over here. You can also see that I am using the palette box. So I'm going to put for every text comment, I'm going to leave it green, and I would just type it here. Click post, and then the student would automatically get a notification that you had left feedback for them. Very similar to how Google Comments are categorized and notifications are done there. The next feature that we want to show is a voice comment. So here, I have one that I already created. And the way that I would create it here is, I'm going to click this one over here. I'm going to click the little microphone. And please make sure to use proper spelling. Oops, I made it green by accident. Sorry, I meant to make it blue. But that way, right now, the student can hear. And please make sure to use proper spelling. Can hear my voice or hear your voice for this particular piece of feedback. I see a question, do they get notifications for every comment sent to them? Yes, unless there are several comments sent within 60 seconds, because otherwise their email gets inundated. But otherwise, yes, they will get notifications, just like you and I would get notifications if someone left a comment on a Google Doc. So this is what we would use for a traditional, or when you're teaching in person or you're grading homework. This could also be used for remote learning as well. If you wanted to send your students a question, I'm going to jump down to an assignment that is actually based on Aaron Sam's and John Bergman's model of a flipped classroom, where students go home and they learn the content and then they come back. By the way, I forgot to just give a little bit of background about myself. I apologize for that. So before joining Kaizena, I was a middle school principal and special ed teacher for 20 years. And I also teach higher ed. I taught students who wanted to become special ed teachers rather, at the graduate level. So some of the terminology that I'm using should be very familiar to you, so I promise I actually put it into practice. So for example, here's an assignment that I put together quickly about percents. We know that percents are being used all the time now, depending on the age group of your students. If you wanted to talk about how percents are being used in the current pandemic, for younger students, I would not encourage that because it could be scary, for lack of a better term. But they could see percents all over. And so here's an assignment that you could use without actually having to hold a live synchronous session, a live session like what we're doing right now, where students can actually learn the concept, learn the skill, and then perform the project, perform the task, and then be able to submit it to you. And then you could have a discussion about it. You could then have more interactions versus you being prescriptive in sharing the skill set. So for example, here I've highlighted, check out this video on percents. So if the student goes over here to this highlight, they'll see a post over here. And I'm using what's called a lesson, a little light bulb over here. And I'll walk you through how to create a lesson a little bit later on. But here is a lesson that I created about percents. And the cool piece is that I can embed any public YouTube or Vimeo video right within Kaizena. So here is a video that shows how to calculate percents. So I can choose a video based on my students' level of understanding, development, etc. And that way, more importantly, someone else created the video versus me having to create a video and uploading it or sharing it versus me holding 10 minutes worth of time on how to teach percents, whereas I can have students watch the video. And then when we do have a synchronous session, part of it could be on, okay, who has questions about percents? And I can quickly review it and then be able to go into the next part of the lesson or the next part of the activity. Then I added a voice comment, which you can with, as I did with the upper lesson, with your parents' permission and or assistance. And I added a voice comment saying, make sure you get your parents' permission. This is really important. This is really important. Make sure you get your parents' permission. And then students can upload their pictures here right to the Google Doc. So in this particular case, this assignment, which you can obviously take from almost any type of curriculum that you're using, whether it's for science, math, history, ELA, with a little transformation and using the Kaizena add-on, you are able to create a flipped lesson. And the cool thing is you'll be able to use this year after year after year. It will stay. I'm going to pause here and take any questions that people have before I turn it over to Justin, who's going to show you a little bit more about lessons and skills in Google Slides. So I see there's one question. Can we disable to only get one notification? Is there a setting for that? There is not a setting for that, Rebecca. We can certainly add that to our development list. We actually, when we pulled it and created it, we found that teachers actually wanted students to get numerous notifications because sometimes they quote unquote will miss a notification. This way, you know, if they get 6 or 7, they know that you are actually providing feedback. But yes, we can certainly add that to our development list. Other questions? All right. So Justin, I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend.
Excellent. That sounds great. So hi there again, everybody. Just to give you a little update on myself as well. So as I was saying that, oh, I see a kitty. Fantastic. Hi there, Anne. Um, So I have various teaching levels from all over the place. So I've taught students from elementary all the way up to university graduate level courses. And I want to show you some of the tools that I use in Kaizena to show you exactly what you could do from your desk and still make it feel like you're in a classroom with your students. So I'll just bring up my screen here. And I'm actually going to show you one of the PowerPoints that I use to teach. This is a grade 8 science PowerPoint all about fluid dynamics. So what I like to do is usually when I'm teaching, I'm kind of like a lecturer style. I like to sit with my presentation in front of my students and start talking and kind of have a conversation about the topics instead of just being like, learn this thing. Try to write this down and memorize it. I actually hand out a syllabus to my students from grade 7 all the way up to grade 12 with a rubric of exactly what topics I'll be covering. And the Kaizena add-on actually kind of makes it a little bit easier to do that. So let's start by talking about what you can do with a PowerPoint. As you can see here, I kind of have a bullhorn in the middle of my my slide. And the reason why I do that is that I like to put annotated messages into my PowerPoint, because as Ariel was saying, the voice of a teacher can actually make a student feel a lot more comfortable. So they hear that same voice, they know that they're learning from someone they trust and everything is going just fine. So what I like to do is I'll pick on that bullhorn because it's a nice, easy thing for students to click onto. And as you can see, it grabs in the add-on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make all of my voice messages red. And I'm going to say, welcome to the presentation on fluid dynamics, mainly mix and flow of matter. And that's instantaneously added into the PowerPoint so that my students can open up that PowerPoint and go through the lesson as if I was standing in front of them in the classroom. It kind of makes it a little bit easier so that you don't have to put everybody into a Zoom chat to listen to you talk. You can kind of make it so that, let's say that for today's lesson, every student is to log in, go through the PowerPoint, listen to my annotations, make their own notes. And if they have any questions, I'll be online from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. and you're more than happy to ask me any questions and I'll answer them. So that makes it a little bit easier and kind of gives you that feeling of being back in the classroom, but also making it so you can give individual feedback to every single student, because then you can have conversations about those things. So we have that there. So that shows how exactly you can annotate slides and add in voice messages. Now let's show a couple other things that we can do. So we want to talk about the skills that Kaizena can add into your PowerPoints. So I like to, when I'm making my students' presentations and their, sorry, not presentations, their rubrics, like I said, I like to point out every single thing that I'll be covering, most of the topics and important keywords and stuff. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to use Kaizena to make a rubric again on the presentation as well. And it makes it a little bit easier for students who might be having trouble with a particular subject, exactly where they can find it in the PowerPoint, maybe to review it again before they ask me any questions that they might have. So we're going to highlight what are fluids, because that's a pretty important topic in this PowerPoint. And I'm going to add a skill to track. I'm going to put that in yellow. And I'm going to click skill here. And as you can see, I've set up quite a few different skills. I'm going to use the flow dynamics one. And what I like to do is I like to make different categories within a particular skill. So this is talking about flow dynamics, and at level 0, there's a nice review about how atoms work. So I'd like to point that this slide in particular kind of gives you an idea of how atoms might work in fluids. You can also label it with another thing saying like, what is a fluid? So if a student has a problem with the actual term fluid themselves, they can come back here and find the actual definition of the word fluid. So I hit post. And now every time a student sees that yellow highlight, they know that they're following along with the rubric, and they can find exactly in my syllabus what they should be learning. Kind of makes it a little bit easier for them to study for tests and stuff, so they can organize their thoughts and come to see me if they have any questions about a project or anything. And I find that this works really well with my students. I even made it so, like I was saying earlier, that I have those extra help sessions where I sit with my students and talk to them about the particular stuff that we're going over in the presentation. So they have this almost like a video with all your annotated sections, and they can go through it and watch it as many times as they want, getting that same material delivered every single time. And it's accessible to all of your students, and they're all able to ask questions right back within the Kaizena tool. Now, another thing we can do is we can actually add assignments or projects into the actual PowerPoint. So let's go to the final slide of my PowerPoint. And I can see here that I have a text box that just says assignment. Now, my students would know that if they see this, that's something that they should be clicking right on. So I click on the text box, and I'm going to make it blue for my lessons. And I'm going to click on lesson, and I have one right here called the Fluid Project, Shampoo. To kind of give you an idea of what this is, my grade 8 students have a project every year where they design their own shampoo. And as long as nothing in it is super dangerous and will rot my hair, I take every bottle home and I wash my hair with the kids' shampoo, and they find it hilarious. But it's a nice fun tool that I like to add into my in-person teaching. And this way you can kind of bring it back so that the student can still get the idea of how a shampoo is designed, what exactly are the properties of a liquid, and all kinds of other good stuff like that. So right there, the students can see that there's an assignment, and if they click on this, it'll automatically download the assignment for them. And now they have their own individual copy of the assignment that only they can edit. So the original copy is always there to go back to. but they can always come back and have their own copy to work off of, which I just get them to email into me later. And that's how I keep track of all of my students' assignments and things. So the great thing about Kaizena is that it's really open to interpretation, and it's really all about your teaching style. So there's lots of different things that you can do in order to use this for your benefit for teaching students in the classroom. Now, before I flip back over to Ariel, are there any questions from anyone that I didn't see in the chat? I'm actually trying to bring the chat up now, but it doesn't seem to want to let me. Oh, there we go. No, it looks like Ariel has addressed all of those questions already, so I will stop sharing and I will flip back over to him.
All right, thank you, Justin. So just a couple pieces of administrative items. Number one, the features that I showed you in the Google Docs, all those are free. The only difference with the free version and the premium version or the paid version on Google Docs is the amount of time you can leave a voice message or a voice comment. For the free version, it's 30 seconds. Both students and teachers have that limitation. For the premium or paid version, it's up to 10 minutes per comment. The Google Slides, all of those features are premium. Their Google Slides add-on for Kaizena is a premium or paid feature. At the end of this webinar, we'll be giving you a coupon good for 1 year or 12 months worth of premium service that you'll be able to use at whenever you wish. So it will take you through until, if you put it in today, the end of March of 2021, which hopefully we will all be in our classrooms. Well, at least you'll be in your classrooms. I will not. So what I want to do now is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to walk you through how to create a lesson. So this will be useful for those of you that are interested in creating that micro learning unit, or if you also want to save a voice comment. So for example, I am sure if we scroll all the way up to this voice comment here, water for, and you'll see that the punctuation is wrong. Okay, please make sure to capitalize after every period. So suppose that for some odd reason you have more than one student that has difficulty with the capitalization rule. And you can leave this recording and make a recording every single time, or you can save this voice comment as a lesson. And the way that I do that is I just click on the 3 dots. Whoops, where'd I go? Here we are. And I'm able to I can reply. So if this was a student's comment, I could reply to them, or a student can reply to you. But in this case, I'm going to save it as a lesson. I'm going to call it capitalization. Click create. So now, let's say I find another one. Well, I'll just pick one. Then I click on lessons. I can scroll all the way down. And there's my lesson that I created earlier. That's my voice comment. I'm also going to highlight it so that way the student knows. Sometimes there is a little bit of a delay, just so that people know. But now let's go into that you want to create a micro learning unit. So for example, you want to embed a video. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's say we can do, here we go. So let's say I wanted to create a micro learning unit using the lesson. So I'm going to click on lesson, the little light bulb, and I'm going to click manage lessons on the dashboard. This little hyperlink. It's going to take me to my lessons page where I can create a lesson. So I'm going to call this juice. And because I've got multiple different types of learning styles in the classroom. I can use multiple methods of delivering the lesson. So I can use a text comment. I can also make a recording. Did you know that cranberry juice is only about 10% actual juice? Otherwise, it would be too tart. I can post that. I can also add a document. So for example, if I wanted to add an image of the nutritional contents of cranberry juice, or if I wanted to add the nutritional comments, the nutritional features of, let's say, prune juice or something else, I can add a file from my computer. Let's see. And finally, I can also embed a video. I'm going to walk you through a little bit on how to, I'm going to walk you through how to embed a video, but I'm also going to walk you through how to find the right video for this type of lesson. So for example, YouTube and Vimeo is a treasure trove of content. It could also be a pain in the butt to have to go through thousands of videos for the same content. So let's say, okay, so already there are hundreds of videos all about this, right? So instead of going through each one, I'm actually going to click on filter. And these are two filters that I would recommend using. This, as an instructional designer, someone that designs online courses, when you are teaching online or you're presenting information online, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous, the attention span of students drops by half. So when they're in your classroom, you have a captive audience, right? They're not leaving unless they have to go to the bathroom or to the nurse, but they're not leaving. You've got their attention. You've got the whiteboard, you've got the chalkboard, you've got the smartboard. If you have one-on-one Chromebooks, you've got it in your classroom. When students are home, and this is true of all ages, there's a lot of distraction. In addition, they aren't picking up the biochemical vibes that they would get in the class. We actually give off endorphins when we're teaching, and they also pick up endorphins from their students. When you're by yourself, you don't pick it up, which is why teaching online takes a lot more energy, both to focus as well as to deliver the content. So using these two tools to filter out and find the best video for your students. So the first thing that I would do in terms of relevance is to use the view count. The SEO, the search box actually, will find videos on pretty well. So you don't necessarily have to do the accuracy of it, but the view count actually shows the number of people that have watched it. The higher the view count, the more at least engaging, entertaining the video is. Again, you have to watch it to make sure that it actually covers the content that you want and that it's appropriate. But that way, you'll be able to select a video that's right for your students. The other filter that I would use is the duration. You want fewer than 4 minutes per video, especially for a micro learning unit. Anything longer than that, and again, that attention span is going to drop unless you're using some other tools to stop the video and pause and ask a question. So let's see. So already I'm not going to pick that one. And notice that I'm getting songs from the band Cranberry. But here's one, how Ocean Spray harvests cranberries a year. So I'm going to select that one. And
we live in strange times.
Now, you'll notice one of the things that YouTube has done over the years is they put an ad before. What's nice is that Kaizena will filter out 90% of those ads. The only time it won't is when it comes from an educational source. So for example, if you're using pbs.org or you're using something that Pearson put up, if they have their video attached to it, their quote unquote ad, Kaizena won't filter it out. Otherwise, it will filter out. I'm going to click share, click copy, and then I'm going to add it to my lessons simply by pasting the URL, pasting the YouTube video in there. Now I'm going to click save. I go back to my document, and now I'm going to click highlight the tool that I want, and I'm going to select yellow because I'm putting in a lesson. And I'm going to find it, click post, and now I've got my micro learning unit right within the Google Doc. I've got my text, I've got my voice comment. Did you know that cranberry juice? I've got the image. Now the image will download. It's not going to pop up, but it'll download to the student. This will also work for those that are using Chromebooks. And it will show the video right inside.
Come Thanksgiving, cranberries hit tables across the U.S., usually in sauce.
And there you have your micro learning unit. So that way students are progressing. I know that some states, and that's something we're going to be talking about at the end, some states have now mandated that learning has to continue, that you can't just do review, for example. So if you have to teach a new unit or a new concept or skill, creating a micro learning unit or using a lesson is a great way to do it. Are there any questions about how to create a lesson? Oh, thank you, Justin, for answering the questions. Awesome.
Ariel, I got a couple of the questions. There's a couple more that I think are best suited for you to answer.
All right. So I will take a look at those,
Awesome.
And then I'm going to stop sharing, and then you
Sure.
take it over, and I will answer those in the chat.
Awesome. Let's talk all about skills. Let's see. So, as I was saying earlier, in my presentations, I kind of like to have that syllabus follow along with my PowerPoint so that students can very easily look at particular skills and tools that they would be tested on in my classroom. So let's look at adding a particular skill that may not be here yet. So as you can see, I've got some for chemistry and for solids and gases and understanding matter, but I also taught quite a few other courses. So I'm going to show you how to add on a skill for something completely different. So once this loads up, I will show you some of the skills that I did for my my psychology classes that I taught for students. So we'll click on new skill here, and the skill that we're going to call it is understanding animal behavior. So we'll create. So now I have that skill created, and I can put different types of lessons that I want to track, or different types of skills or sub skills within that for students to follow along during my my presentations. So something that I would consider very basic in this skill in understanding human behavior is animal body language. So being able to look at an animal and understand if they're scared or happy or good or all those different kinds of things. Then that would be skill number 0 for this this little skill set. And then the next skill set that I would put would be understanding how animals communicate. So how do animals communicate with each other? And then my final lesson for that skill set would probably be biological hierarchy. There we go. So I'm also going to remove these other levels, and you can add more and remove them as you need. But those are the particular skills that I want to track while I'm talking about this or understanding animal behavior. So if we hit save, that'll add that right into my skill set. So now I have this skill that I can add into new PowerPoint. So we'll go back to my presentation here. And now that I've added into that skill, we can go and look for a couple things that we want to track. So let's say that on the first slide, we were talking about understanding animal body language. So once this slips back up here, I can highlight whatever I believe is part or following along with that skill set. And since I'm marking a skill, I'm going to put that in blue. And we'll go back, slide all the way down, and we'll see here, understanding animal behavior. That's the skill that I want to talk about. Now the question is, what is the subset of that skill? So animal body language, I pick on level 0. I hit post. And that makes a note within Kaizena of where this particular topic is being covered within the PowerPoint. So let's add in a couple more. So we'll go to the next slide. And we'll pick some more text. And I'm going to add another skill that I want to track. So we'll go to understanding animal behavior again. And I'm going to say that this is a biological hierarchy slide. So I'm going to post that. So that's another skill that I'm tracking. And again, if a student is having a particular issue with that topic, they can come right back to my slides that I taught them off of and can see exactly what they're supposed to know for their lessons. And we'll add in that last one, because once we have all of these skills in place, you can actually create a rubric within Kaizena to make it a little bit easier for your students to follow along. So materials using fluids, we'll classify that as level 1, which is how do animals communicate with each other. Kind of different topics, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from. We'll post that there. And now I've got 3 sub-skills of a master skill that I want the students to be able to know that to understand, and that they should know that this is something that I'd be testing them on. So I actually have a rubric here from our last presentation, so I'll get rid of that. So let's say that I've made my PowerPoint, I've put in all my skills, and now I want to create a rubric so that it's nice and easy for students to see exactly what they should be learning. So down here, there's a little blue rubric button. I'm going to click on that, and there's a bunch of different options here. And the best option we should pick here is existing skills in this conversation. So that'll grab every skill that I've already put into the PowerPoint and make a nice, clean rubric for our students to follow. So existing skills in this conversation. Now they've got, well, we'll leave the flow dynamics there, but then that shows everything that they could be tested on, and kind of gives them a study tool for what they should be looking at. So it kind of matches along with their syllabus, kind of reinforces exactly what I should be teaching them, and makes it a little bit easier for them to understand or even approach me if they have any questions. So I'll save that as a template, and I'm going to call this animal behavior template. And at some point I will learn how to spell, but we'll be good there. There we go. So rubric is created. So now as long as the student is following through the presentation, they can bring up all of the skills that I want them to make sure they understand. They can bring up the rubric to see a full list of the skills, and they can compare that with their syllabus to make sure that they're covering everything that I think they should be covering for an upcoming test or project. Does anybody have any questions about that Ariel hasn't already addressed? I see him working very hard in the chat. Which is good. At least one of us is working hard. I see Maggie definitely likes what we have so far. Great. That's awesome.
That's great.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop my share and pass it back over to Ariel. And yeah, we'll finish up our little webinar.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. So we're coming to the end of our webinar. And what I want to be able to provide for all of you, in addition to answering questions, is the coupon. So that way you can now access all of Kaizena's premium functions for 1 year. I'm going to post it right now, so feel free to copy it. It is all caps, no space. When you go into Kaizena, if you're using the free version, you are just going to click on the progress button and walk through the steps and getting an individualized or individual subscription. And then instead of entering a credit card number, just enter in that coupon. If you already have a premium account, or if you have spoken with me before and I recognize some of your names, if I've given you a coupon already, you are more than welcome to keep this coupon until you need it. It will not expire, so feel free to use it when you would like, and we'll just update your account. I did see there was one question from Rebecca. Is there a way to make Kaizena pop up every time you open a document or Google Slides? Yes, you can pin the Kaizena add-on to your document, so that way it's up all the time. However, there is a caveat to that, that sometimes we will push out a notification at the little bottom. So that may be a little bit of a bother. In addition, sometimes Google will get a little finicky, and so you'll have to close the pop-up or the add-on again. But the way to do that, you'll see if, let me share my screen. So over here, you'll notice that I'm going to actually log out, and I'm going to add the Kaizena add-on again. And if I scroll all the way up, there used to, where's the pin button? We used to have a pin button. Oh, are we having issues with it, Justin? Do you remember?
I think so.
Okay.
Now that I think about it, it's been a while. I think they were. I think the dev team is currently working on it.
Okay.
The pin option was there.
Okay. So once because I knew there was a glitch with it. Okay, thank you. So yes, we will be putting it back, but we have to fix it. Apparently, the thumbtack lost its puncture ability, so we'll put it back. Any other questions that people have about Kaizena? And also, I would love to know, we would love to know actually, given the fact where you're all coming in from, what you are currently working on as you prepare for remote learning. I know some states are mandating that you continue with your lessons, and some states have not given any. So we'd love to just get that feedback from you. So feel free to unmute yourself, and if you are brave enough, also you can go on video and go right ahead.
Ariel, before we jump into that, I actually see a pretty good question that maybe we should address.
Yeah.
From Maraguli. It says, any specific ideas on using Kaizena for teaching languages? I think you may be better at addressing that question since I'm the science nerd.
Sure. So yes, in terms of, we actually, last night we had somebody that teaches German, and one of the tips that we had for Kaizena was to definitely use the voice comments. I've also worked with teachers who've taught Spanish. The voice comments help the students understand the nuance and inflection of a foreign language. This is also true for students who are ESL or ELL as well. So the voice comments are extremely helpful, and you can also save your voice comments, as I showed before, to lessons. In terms of the app being in different languages, we have gotten that request before. That is way down on our development list, unfortunately, but that is something that we're considering as well. So I see Maggie Morales said there's a second week of distance learning, and starting week 3 of remote learning. Cool. And are you finding that, how are you finding that students are taking to it? How are you finding yourself taking to it? Feel free to unmute. You're more than welcome to share.
Can I speak from Granby?
Yep.
Okay, well, I work for I'm French, so I'm sorry for my English.
That's okay.
Okay, I work for a small school for people that goes to 6 years old to 12.
Okay.
And we haven't stopped at all teaching. We have used Zoom to teach live. Kids adore it, and it's working very well. And I'm using a classroom all the time for them to give our report. And I was wondering if it would be possible for me to give a dictation and for them to type it, and if this dictation could go in a section of classroom so I can take it after and correct it.
Yes, so students can also leave voice comments. So because with the premium version, if you share your document or slides presentation with your students, they are automatically bumped up to premium. They don't have to pay for it. So they will then have access to the 10 minutes length. Um, so you can then have a full conversation. There was another teacher who was asking about reading. So for example, they would put a book and they would put the text of the book in here. By the way, at least in the United States copyright laws, when you're teaching online, you have a lot of flexibility. You can put 99% of a book up on your website or LMS or your learning management system or Google Classroom in a document, and that's okay. You're not infringing on copyright. So a teacher's put, let's say, chapter 7 of Moby Dick, and what he did is he then would highlight a word, and then he would read it, the entire thing, so that way students could hear it being read to them for those that had difficulty learning or with English language, or for those with dyslexia, those who are ELL. Sometimes it's just easier to learn through listening versus reading. So that way he was able to sort of create the audio book of that text.
Okay, well, just I'm using the premium, and I want to share that when kids send me their text, I do highlight sections of their text where I need to talk to them, and I always ask them to reply to make sure that it has been read, or I ask them questions. Do you really think that this verb, this subject goes with this verb? I'm sorry for my English.
No,
and then
fine.
they do reply. So it's awesome, really. It works. But I was really wondering if I could give a dictation, with holes in it. So I could read, and then they fill in the blanks.
Oh, they fill in the oh, okay. So you're talking more of like a worksheet, like an interactive worksheet.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm trying to think. You could theoretically you could design it that way. There's actually a better tool. And oh, what the heck? So I do instructional design. That doesn't matter. There's another company called Wiser.me where you can create digital worksheets. So
really?
Yeah, for free. Yep.
I didn't even know that. Thanks, Ariel.
Why not?
And could I put those worksheets in Classroom afterwards?
In Google Classroom, yes.
So I could create on the platform you just talked to me about.
Yep.
And then I would put this in Classroom, so all my students would have one copy per student.
Yes.
To fill in.
Yep.
Oh, I love you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. By the way, just so that people know, I'm not actually breaking any rules. We are working on collaborating with Wiser, and I also used to work for Wiser, so it's totally fine that I'm sharing it. I didn't want to, but yes. So you can check it out.
Does anything exist that it corrects by itself? So
in Wiser, yes, you can set certain questions to autocorrect.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. With the recording of this, yes. So what I will do, Melissa, is can I send an email with the recording? Yes, I'm actually going to. What I'll do is I'm going to share it with everyone who attended today. But I know that some people were given "quote unquote" special tickets. So I am going to write down. So if you got a regular ticket, if you did not reach out to me directly and get a special ticket, then you will get an email. If you got a special ticket from me, then I will email you directly, and I'm writing down those that want it. In addition, I also put the link as to where you'll find the video in the chat. See the YouTube link. Here we go. Yep. So I'm just going to copy and put it down again. So this is where it'll be posted. So that way you can get it. So special tickets. So there was a limit of 40 with the Eventbrite, and we've got literally 150 people on the wait list. So what I did is, for those that reached out to me directly and said, I'm on the wait list, but can I come to this session? I'll give you a special ticket. So I sent you a link in the add-on. So, yep, Stephanie, I will definitely get to you. But the video is going to be posted on that YouTube channel. It'll be public. You'll be able to share it with all your colleagues and go from there. All right, so we're actually a little over the time, which is fine with me, but I also want to be respectful of your time as well. I see that Tracy raised her hand, actually, which is kind of cool. I've never had anybody do that before in a session. Tracy, did you have a question?
Mine is relatively simple. I just want clarification. I use Google Classroom a lot.
Yep.
And one of the things is once students turn in an assignment, I want to be able to give them verbal comments. And I think what I'm getting is that if it's an assignment they submit, I cannot use Kaizena. But if I create a document that doesn't go into an assignment and they just share the document with me, then I can?
So, great question. So if they, with Google Classroom, if they just submit it, it's not automatically shared with you?
It is, but it goes into an assignment, and then I have a list of all the assignments, and I can click through the assignment. So it opens up as a Google Doc, but the add-on doesn't appear. So I think I have to download the document in order to access. So it kind of defeats the purpose of me having them submit the assignment.
I actually think I know what the issue is there, Ariel.
Go right ahead.
We've had this question come up a couple times where the only way for the add-on to work is that both you and the student need to have shared permissions. So what I can recommend to just kind of get over that hurdle for now, instead of having the students submit it through Google Classroom, if this is what you want to do, you could have them just share it with you like you share your PowerPoints. And then once you have that document, you should be able to add in voice comments, no problem at all.
Okay, because usually what I do is, like, if I'm going to do a PowerPoint, is I submit that into Google Classroom as material.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they can open the material, and there's a rubric and everything that's attached to different assignments. So, but that's my thing. If it's attached to an assignment, then I cannot use Kaizena. But if I leave it as an open document, like we're just sharing the document back and forth, then I can. That's the correct thing, right?
I think so. Ariel, can you confirm?
So you should be able to, as long as the shared permission is both editing, then the Kaizena add-on should work.
Okay, I'll play with it a little bit.
Play with it a little bit. We do know the other piece is that Google Classroom just launched rubrics.
Yeah.
In grading, so that's in beta right now. So right now, the rubrics that we offer and the rubrics that Google Classroom do not play together yet. Once Google is out of beta, we'll then work with Google to make sure that it is, so that way they'll talk to each other and you don't have to do double duty.
Okay. Yeah, we're just getting started right now with all our, they've been on spring break. And so now this week is like, hey, welcome back. And then next week we're supposed to start actually trying to implement lessons.
Got it.
So I'm thinking a lot of this more for next year because it's a lot that we're learning really fast.
Yep.
Just trying to master Zoom and control that
Yes.
is a challenge. So
yes.
But I really appreciate the information. I've heard about this program before. I've just never had time to play with it. Now I have time.
Yeah, good. I'm sorry it took a pandemic for you to have time to play with it, but yes.
Well, we keep asking for extra time. We need time. We need time. Here we go.
There you go.
Just to jump in really quick, Tracy, I'm going to add one more comment for you. Stephanie in the chat said that once students submit their projects into Google Classrooms, they don't have editing rights. So if you return to the student, they have access to the comments that you've added to that particular file. I'm not sure if that'll make your life a little bit easier, but that is what Stephanie, and it looks like Maggie says that as well. So it may be that might be the workaround that they're using. And if anyone does have any questions after the webinar, you're more than welcome to email either myself or Ariel. Our emails should be attached to the Eventbrite ticket. My phone is, if it's not in my pocket, it's physically taped to my forehead. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. And Ariel, I know that he'll feel the same way.
Yep, exactly. Well, thank you, everyone.
everything that you guys have done and all the efforts and the help that you've given. I got to go to another meeting.
All right.
My day.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you
But
all
I really
for
appreciate
coming.
everything. Thank you.
You got it. And have a great week. Teach well and stay safe.
Yep.
Thanks,
And I
guys.
know how to
Stay
get a hold of
healthy.
you. Thank you.
You do.
Oh yeah. We
Take care,
have
everybody.
nothing to do either. Feel free to contact us. We're bored too.
Bye.